Welcome back to our Good Friday edition of News Geelong. The Armstrong Creek development on the south side of Geelong, along the Surf Coast Highway, continues to be a focal point of the future, as News Geelong speaks with Terry Demio from the City of Greater Geelong.
Well, Armstrong Creek is going well. As we've talked about in the past, it's progressing in stages. So there's a number of precincts. There's 7 precincts across Armstrong Creek. I won't go through them all today, but the first 2 of those have precinct structure plans approved, and we're working on other ones. But to perhaps concentrate on the ones that are approved, Armstrong Creek East is managed by the ACDC Group, a combination of the Metricon Group and Casey and Duke Family Trusts. They are developing the first stage, which is down on Charlemont Road and Bowen Heads Road. I've sold about 400 lots, and earthworks are progressing very well down there at this point in time. So that's a stage which will see immediate development. It's right on the sewer, and all infrastructure is being delivered. Those of you that have been down and had a look at Armstrong Creek in recent times would have seen a very significant water pipeline coming down Boundary Road to service the new growth area. Employment Precinct, the Keystone Business Park, they have approval for 140 hectares of employment land just on the east side of Bowen Heads Road in what we know as Marshall. And they have initial planning permits for 72 lots. Now, residential developments, obviously the market's quite specific. In the employment precinct, they are working at this point in terms of firming up those commercial opportunities in order to define exactly what development infrastructure is delivered. So the Queensland Group, the Keystone Group, and we're very confident that they'll deliver a major high amenity employment precinct in the not too distant future. Would expect earthworks to start in the last quarter of this year. Beyond that, the West Precinct, which is Villawood, Rory Costello's group, well advanced in their precinct structure planning, which is the next step before you get a planning permit. And that's on the west side of the Torquay Road, looking to develop about 4,500 lots in that area. And again, things that you've seen in recent times, the pelicans have appeared on the Surf Coast Highway, which will demonstrate a bit of art that they were proposing to roll out across that entire precinct. And opposite there, the next stage of the ACDC Group, where they've got a Armstrong Creek Coastal, or Warralilly Coast, is proposed on Torquay Road.
Student housing developments at Deakin University is in the news as improvements continue to be announced and welcomed by all involved, as Blake Freeman reports.
I'm here at Deakin Wampons to speak with Andrew Burks about the Victorian Government grant for the much-needed expansion of student accommodation on campus. What is the size of the grant and what does it mean for Deakin?
The grant from the state government is $10.2 million, and it means that we can construct another 311 student beds on the Warren Ponds campus and another 100 beds at the Warrnambool campus.
And why is Deakin in need for this development?
I think that the federal government has set some pretty challenging targets about increasing participation from students in regional areas of Australia, and it's really important that we actually can accommodate people if we're trying to attract them from regional areas of Australia. Student accommodation has proven to be very successful in increasing the retention rate of students that actually commence at university. The retention rate for students living in student accommodation is much better than those who don't. And you also have to recognise that students who are taking up student accommodation from the ages of 18 to 34, it's often their first time living away from home, so they need some extra support around them. And it's very expensive for them to actually go and find private rental accommodation.
Blake Freeman at Deakin University, News Geelong.
Thank you, Blake. The Geelong Business Network breakfast was treated to presentations by the COGG Mayor John Mitchell and South Barwon MLA Andrew Katos regarding the continued future planning for Geelong. News Geelong spoke with both central figures involved in the process.
Yeah, well, a lot of interesting topics that were raised. You had Avalon Airport, the CBD, growth in the region. So there was lots of issues. Popular elected mayor was certainly brought up. So these are issues that were very good, and there was certainly some good questions that came at the end.
Andrew, talking about the popular elected mayor, you did make the point at the start of your speech this morning. Inform our viewers, what is the process associated with the popular elected mayor?
Well, at the moment there's a consultation going on around the model for the popular elected mayor. So at present there's the City of Melbourne model, which is mayor and deputy elected mayor that you vote for, as well as your councillors. Now we're saying, are people happy with that model? Would they just like to have a mayor elected and the deputy mayor come from the councillors? Or what is the process for the election of the mayor and deputy mayor? So that's what we're trying to flesh out at the moment before we move forward in the process. So we certainly value the community's input and their opinions, and I certainly encourage them to make a submission to the process.
Another interesting item, I know the CBD, the Central Business District of Geelong, is something close to your heart. You mentioned the questions of height limits and the need to have the capacity to go up.
Yeah, well, if you want to, look, the TAC was a great success story in movement of a government department, but we can't just simply keep moving every government department out to the regions. There's scope to do that, but we should be trying to attract private enterprise to come and invest in the CBD. Now, if a company wants to come and invest, a major international or a national company wishes to put an office here in Geelong, they'll very constrained with a 6, 7, 8-storey building. So I think we need to look at going a bit higher. We're certainly not talking about the Rialto or the Eureka Tower, but certainly a bit extra height if we start perhaps looking at 12 or even 15 stories, which is something that would make it attractive and viable for a company to relocate to Geelong.
Yeah, look, it's always good to be able to get your message out there, because there's no doubt that in a lot of people's eyes that not much goes on, and that's no one's blame, no one to be blamed for that. But when you're inside looking out, it's far different than what you are outside looking in, because there is a lot being done, and that was just an opportunity today to let people know that.
And there is an enormous number of activities being done, and I'll get you to comment on a couple of things for our viewers. McClarty Place opening up through to the waterfront, very interesting concept.
Well, McClarty Place was opened privately. Now it is private land, and we do have to do some negotiations with the landowner. But we're very hopeful that we will be able to open it up again. There's no guarantees, obviously.
Yeah, by the end of 2011, a preferred site for Geelong Conference Centre.
Yes, Graham. I think, in all honesty, there is one site that we've been working with for a long time, and I'm at the point now in saying, well, if we can't get a yes or a no, and it'd be great if it was a yes, but it'd be equally as helpful if it was a no instead of maybe. We need to know, and that's not the people who own the site's fault. They've got to do their own business. But if we can't get a definitive answer, we need to move on and pick our site, because I believe that's one of the things that's holding this project up.
This is News Geelong as we go to a break and return with sport and weather after this.